Yes, sir. We are going. Uh, all dear participants, a very warm and good afternoon to all of you. Those who have joined and those who are still to join, I welcome you all. You are joining to the day one, session two of these 2 days international level e-conference, which is organized by we people, our institute, Dr. Rajendra Gode, College of Pharmacy, Malkapur, Maharashtra, India. We are continuously engaged in doing these type of practices so as we can ease the spread of knowledge in the field of pharmaceutical sciences. And we hope that our colleagues, the fellow students, the participants, the academicians, the research scholars, all of them, they are enjoying these sessions which we are organizing on behalf of our institute. So I, Professor Gautam Mehtre, I, on behalf of our organizing committee, along with my colleagues and the whole organizing team, I welcome you all to this session two of day one of this 2 days activity. The theme, what we are following here, my dear participants, recent advances in pharmaceutical sciences, therapeutics, quality aspects, and effective product launch. So as the time schedule, what we have decided, we are going to work here for today and tomorrow, 2nd and 3rd July 2020. The first session, it has been amazing by Dr. Sagar Mahale, who has given a very good presentation, interacted with many participants. They raised their questions and queries. The topic was very interesting too. He is the scientist there in Sweden, and I hope all of you have enjoyed the session one of this day one. Now, moving ahead, dear all, I welcome Mr. Matteo Rossillo sir here, who is the Quality Assurance Manager, Medreich PLC, Feltham, London, UK, who will be speaking and interacting to all of us. The topic, what he is going to present here, it is synergy and agility, how QA can support innovation in pharma industry. Very newer and a very interesting topic for all of us, my dear students, my dear academic colleagues, dear faculty members who are from different institutions, and all dear participants. So I welcome you on behalf of our institute to this session two. And I'm sure that you people will be very pleased and happy to hear Mr. Matteo sir. He is very learned, very knowledgeable person. And in fact, as I came to know him, he is a very all-rounder type of personality. What I have heard and I have known from his resume, his biodata, and my friends, my uh, person who are working over there in London, what they have told me about this resource person, what we have got today, Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir. So you are hearty welcome, sir. Welcome to this uh, online e-conference, what we are organizing, sir, on behalf of all our organizing team, on behalf of our institute, Dr. Rajendra Gode, College of Pharmacy, Malkapur, and on behalf of all the participants who are joined to this event and to this webinar, sir. So we welcome you, sir. Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir. Welcome you. Hearty welcome to you, sir. So I take this privilege to introduce Rossillo, sir, and I'll be happy to tell very interesting facts and things what the man, the eminent speaker, the resource person for today's session two. So he will be speaking on the topic synergy and agility, how QA can support innovation in pharma industry. Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir, Quality Assurance Manager, Medreich PLC, Feltham, London, UK. So the resource person what we have today, Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir, He has the experience of almost 12 years working in different departments. I'll be explaining them all. He initially started. He possesses the qualification of Master of Chemistry honors from University of Palermo, Italy. So by birth, the respected and beloved resource person, Mr. Matteo sir, by birth he is Italian. Now he has moved to UK. He is residing now in London and is working there. So he started his career initially being a chemist at some institute and some organizations. Then he moved on ahead in his life. He also did his role as a researcher at Aboca in Italy. Then he performed his roles and duties as quality assurance assistant at Fresenius Kabi, Borden, UK. He also has experience to work as quality assurance associate at Baxter Healthcare, London, UK. Then he was working as senior quality assurance executive at Crescent Pharma Limited, Hampshire, UK. Then later on, he moved on, and at presently, he is working as quality assurance manager, quality assurance department, Medreich, Feltham, London, UK. He has worked with various organizations. He is also associated with the very novel and newer works in the area of quality assurance, quality management systems, and so many things. As per his qualifications and his capabilities permit him, he is also interestingly a personal trainer at Sports Association. The area of interest for his working is quality assurance, then research and development department. He is very keen and very well known to CGMP guidelines, then also obeying and following regulatory affairs guidelines. He is also known about the concepts, the working scenario, the conditions, and the requirements to work in a quality assurance department of a pharmaceutical industry unit. So this is all about Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir. He is a very knowledgeable person. He'll be sharing his knowledge, and I am sure that all the participants, we are going to be benefited with his talk and his presentation. We are very free, and I can't rescue this condition to tell few facts about Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir. He is a physical trainer, a very handsome and a very smart working man. He is also interesting to perform so many activities like some physical training. He is a rugby player. He is a guitarist. Very interestingly, I came to know that he used to play guitar and he has a fond of music also. Yeah, I'm sure that he will be working in some drama and some theaters, and he will be associated to those things also, I came to know. And very interesting man who is having fun to music, drama, movies, theaters, sports, games and events, activities. And I recently came to know that, sir, you have started to learn or to become educated about how to perform boating. If I'm not wrong, sir, you are learning boating now, and you are there to receive the license to drive the boat, if I'm not wrong. So very all-rounded type of personality what we have today. Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir, a very all-rounder person, very energized, energetic, and very enthusiastic person we have. So dear participants, I should not take much of time now. I will provide this opportunity to interact with the resource person, Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir. All the participants are waiting for you, sir. And then I hand over the control to you, sir. Now you can start sharing your screen, and people are waiting for you, sir. They are very much eager to see your presentation, to listen to you, and to ask you the questions what they will be having. So please, sir, Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir, please share your screen and start the presentation, sir, if you're okay.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone, or should I say good afternoon, because it's afternoon on your side of the world. It's really my big pleasure to be with you today. So you will see that I've got quite a short presentation in terms of slides. So my slides will be more of an input for discussion. But very briefly, what I'm going to talk about today is, as you can see from the title, is like synergy and agility and how quality assurance can support innovation in pharma industry. And the main message, the crucial message that I want to convey through today is that quality assurance is not just one of the vital departments and operation for any pharma industry, or should we say for any industry that actually manufacture a product in general, but it's literally at the center of all operations. And that's why basically quality assurance is so crucial for any production operation, really. So going ahead to the second slide. Now, a very, very quick definition, or one of the many definitions that you can give to quality assurance, is that is a way of preventing mistakes and defects in manufactured products and avoiding problems when delivering products or services to customers. Now, this one is just one of the many definitions that you can give, but it's most definitely the simplest. And the focus of this is all about basically preventing mistakes and defects. And as I said, this can be applied to anything. It can be applied to a pharma product. It can be applied even to a service. So these principles are not just for the pharmaceutical industry. They're also, for example, for the IT industry. So for example, the people that provide the platform for this meeting today, Zoom, I can assure you they do have a quality assurance department for their operations. So quality assurance basically is the guardian of all the processes in a life cycle in regards to a product. Now, just to give you a quick workflow of what the preparation of a product can be, you have obviously the first phase, which is product development, which in our case, for example, it's usually carried over by the research and development department. Then you have the manufacturing phase, because once you have developed your product, you start manufacturing it. And that's where basically quality assurance starts controlling that the product is being manufactured as per regulation, for example, because we have regulation to comply with. The same thing applies to another phase, which is transporting the products. As you all know, we do transport drugs, which needs to be transported in a certain environmental condition. So just to give you some example of what is the contribution of quality assurance to this phase, we do, for example, check that the transporting conditions have been complied with. So quick example, if the product needs to be transported within 25 degrees maximum, we will make sure that it's being transported actually within 25 degrees. Not only that, transporting a product requires a certain procedure. So the very first time that a company decides to transport, for example, paracetamol from India to the United Kingdom, there will be need to actually assess how this can be transported. And that is done through a process that probably already some of you have heard of, which is basically validation. And that is not just applied to transport, is applied to all procedures that are involved with manufacturing a product. Now, obviously, quality assurance has got a contribution to give into testing of the product and in all of the post-marketing activities. So typically, any quality assurance department in pharma industry will have some human resources assigned, for example, to customer complaints and adverse reaction, which are all considered basically post-marketing activities. So once the product is within the market and it's been distributed to the patient, that doesn't mean that our responsibility is finished. We still have certain responsibilities, and if any products come back with issues, obviously it's going to be our responsibility to, for example, investigate any quality issue with the product, any defect. and find basically a way to stop or mitigate those defects from occurring again. So that is a quick introduction of what is the role of quality assurance in a company. And as I said already in the introduction, the very interesting thing about quality assurance is that our department is literally in the middle of the whole operation. So someone told me a few months ago that quality assurance is definitely the hardest position in a pharmaceutical company. That's because our feedback, our contribution, our final word is going to be required by all of these departments that you see around us in order to proceed with operations. So quality assurance is crucial. So just to give you some example, you see on the left of the screen that quality control department is, of course, the department which is physically testing the product within the lab. So if quality control is investigating a certain product from a testing point of view, in the end, they will always hand over their reports to quality assurance. Quality assurance will have to review it, will have to comment it if needed, and eventually is going to prove it. The same thing applies to, I can see that Davidas Amber has raised hand. So I think we're going to have a space for questions at the end. So correct me if I'm wrong, Gautam, but we can go on with the whole presentation and then they can ask their questions at the end.
Yes, sir. Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will tell all the participants to post their questions in the chat box, and I will be asking them, and sir will be answering them all. Surely.
Okay. Great. So as I was saying, quality control, it's not going to ask for the final word from quality assurance only for the routine testing of products. But let's say, for example, that you have a brand new product that you want to market to the European markets. This product will have to be retested once is imported into the European market. So quality control will have to design an appropriate analytical procedure. This analytical procedure, again, will need the quality assurance feedback. Now, it doesn't need the quality assurance feedback only from a testing point of view, from a chemical point of view. It will need quality assurance feedback also from a regulatory point of view. So here is where basically the tricky part, the difficult part comes in. Typically, quality control will expose their analytical procedure for that product to quality assurance. So quality assurance will be able straight away to give certain feedbacks. However, our industry is a highly regulated industry. And the department in any company, in any pharmaceutical company that is an expert about regulation is the regulatory department. So the regulatory department is, to use an expression, it's kind of the guardian of the regulation that we have to comply with. So if you want to know if you're doing anything wrong in relation to a regulation, so if you want to know if you're complying or not with a certain regulation, you will have to ask regulatory. However, this communication flow has to go through a certain flow, okay? It cannot be, you cannot end up with different flow of communication, which is why quality control will always go to quality assurance for their feedback. And it will be the duty of quality assurance to go to regulatory and actually find out the feedbacks or whatever is in concern with the regulation, okay? The same thing applies to all the other departments. So if warehouse, for example, needs to move a certain product to a customer or to another third party, at some point they will need the feedback of quality assurance. Now, we're not at the center of all other operations only because we basically grant permission to proceed to other departments. We do certain things which are vital for other departments in terms of, for example, producing documentation. Now, as I said, this is a very highly regulated industry. And one of the things that are requested by the regulations we have to comply with is that we need to have a quality system. Now, for those who don't know what a quality system is, a quality system is made of essentially procedure that are established by quality assurance. And then it's going to be the duty of quality assurance to make sure that other departments follow those procedures. Okay. So very simply, if you want to produce anything in a certain environment, so for example, a sterile product in a clean area, quality assurance typically would write down the policies for how to keep that area clean, how to produce that product, even how to get into the area of production. So that is the reason why we are crucial, okay? Because we are at the very center of the quality system. We are at the very center of the communication with other departments. And on a daily basis, continuously, we are requested for feedbacks by other departments in order to proceed in their operation. So if I keep going with the next slide, one thing I really care about in terms of topic is what should be the composition of a quality assurance team. So typically what a quality assurance person should look like. And as he said during my introduction, I do care a lot about sports, and I do like using sports analogy when I talk about the pharma industry. And I know you're very much into cricket, and you probably know something about the American cousin of this sport, which is baseball. And there's an expression in baseball for baseball players. So the very skilled and good baseball players are called 5 tools. So they're called 5 tools because basically they've got the basic 5 capacities of a baseball player, which is basically running, batting, throwing, etc., etc. So that is pretty much ideally what we look for into a quality assurance person. So ideally, and I've summarized again into 5 major skills, what is needed to be a good quality assurance person. And it's basically technical knowledge, which in your case might be, for example, chemistry or engineer technical knowledge, communication skills, creativity, accuracy, and discipline. Okay. So why are these the main skills that a quality assurance person should have, or at least the skills that should be all represented into your quality assurance team? Technical knowledge, it's obviously important because it ensures that you have the technical knowledge of how the product is made, what's the composition of the product. Again, technical knowledge could be engineering knowledge. So if you've got someone in your QA teams who's a skilled engineer, when it's time to actually QA assess a certain piece of equipment or a production line, you will not need, for example, an external consultant. Okay, you will have someone within your quality assurance team who's got the competencies to actually address that problem. Communication skills, why is that important? And we partially go back to the previous slide. As I said, quality assurance is pretty much in the middle of all operation, and it's in the middle of all the other departments. So as I said before, if one department needs certain feedbacks and certain information, they will come directly to quality assurance. And it will be the duty of quality assurance to direct the communication with other departments, because feedbacks might be needed from other departments. And basically, good communication skills means that a good quality assurance team is going to direct that communication. It's going to direct the flow of that communication. There's not going to be parallel communication lines at the same time, which could give different feedbacks to the final recipient, which could just create confusion. Creativity. Now, creativity is very much in connection with technical knowledge. Sometimes you will find yourself in the situation where the quality control department, for example, in the lab hasn't got a certain instrument to perform a certain test. That is where creativity come into place, because you might be in the situation where you have rather to choose from between buying a new piece of equipment, which obviously is adding extra cost, or trying to adapt the equipment that you already have in your lab. That is just one of the options, obviously. The other thing that you can do is to adapt the testing method to the equipment that you have currently in your lab. The other thing that you can do is to go to the regulator and try to justify why you cannot use the recommended testing method, because you haven't got the proper equipment. But the testing method and the equipment that you can use currently, it's equivalent to what is recommended in the regulation. The last two are very, very, very important: accuracy and discipline for the day-to-day jobs that the quality assurance system requires, basically. So as I said, quality assurance system is made mainly by policies, procedures, and documentation that have to be followed in a very religious way. So why accuracy and discipline are crucial? Because accuracy will give you that attention for details, which is required when drafting a new piece of documentation, when reviewing and authorizing a new piece of documentation. And discipline is the final one, and possibly the most crucial, because discipline for me means that all the 4 skills that I've already listed down are basically applied every single day. Okay. So to come back to the title of the slide, which is composition of a QA team. Now, ideally, you would like to have just like QA people which bear all of these 5 skills in one person. And as I said, that is the ideal situation. But what you have to make sure in the real world is that if you have a quality assurance team of, for example, 10 people, all of these skills are equally and broadly represented in your team. So if you see the last bit of the slide, basically put a little diagram of what are the kind of the consequences of having all of these skills into your team. So one is technical knowledge. Technical knowledge will lead to an effective identification of defects. So if you remember what we said at the very start of the presentation, quality assurance is there to basically identify and possibly stop defects, possibly before the product goes onto the market. So technical knowledge is crucial for the identification of defects. Communication skills is crucial for the first part of the title of this presentation, which is synergy. If you have synergy between the different departments, then the whole machine will run very, very smoothly. Creativity, it's very important to give you agility. And agility is not just about reducing costs, going back to my previous example, because you don't have to buy a new piece of equipment, but it's also about exploring what is the real potential of what you already have within your system. Accuracy for me is basically attention to detail, and it basically leads to the fact that nothing is left to chance, okay? And discipline gives you what is probably the most valuable currency at the moment, not just in the pharma industry, but in all industry, and is consistency, okay? So it's the capacity of finally producing the same results in a consistent way, okay? All of these things basically produce what should be the final target for any pharmaceutical industry, which is the patient safety and the product quality. So any one of you that will actually embrace a career in quality assurance will always have as main and final target patient safety. Every time there is an operation to be performed, what you have to keep in mind all the time is that your final objective is the patient safety. And of course, product quality. So a very important topic is, what does it mean being proactive and being reactive? So obviously at the top, I've put two very simple definitions, where basically proactivity is the capacity to identify defects and issue before these defects and issue actually occur. And being reactive or reactivity, it means the capacity to contain, mitigate, and possibly eliminate a defect after its identification. Okay. Now, the two capacity are pretty different because they've got a difference in timing. Basically, proactivity means that you actually identify your defects before it happens, and reactivity is reacting to something that unfortunately already happened. But they've got something in common, and it's that little word, which is identification. Okay. So what does it mean, identification? You can identify something like an error or a defect or anything, any non-conformity that has occurred in your product or your manufacturing procedure, only if you can recognize there is actually a defect. Okay. For some of you that will use certain quality assurance system in the future, you will see that one of the root causes for non-conformity to occur in time is called lapse. Lapse, it means that basically people might have seen it, but they have not recognized it as an error. Okay. Now, how do you make sure that defects, error, and non-conformities are recognized? Through certain steps that I've listed at the end of this slide, which is continuous review. And when I say continuous review, I don't mean just continuous review, for example, of the identification. So in respect, for example, to manufacturing of a product, it doesn't mean just reviewing the testing results continuously. It means reviewing every single process which is in connection with the manufacturing and the distribution and the testing of that particular product. So any drug that is produced in any manufacturing facility, continuous review means continuously reviewing the manufacturing documentation, self-inspecting the manufacturing and the packaging line, self-inspecting the warehouse to make sure, for example, that the product doesn't get mixed with other products. So since we are talking about drugs, we cannot mix different drugs. We have to maintain a certain segregation within the warehouse. And therefore, QA has to review the procedure in the warehouse, do self-inspection on a weekly or a monthly basis of how the process flow is followed in the warehouse. Second point is the compliance with regulation. Now, every country, every area of this global market has got certain regulation that we have to comply with. So quality assurance has got the responsibility of first know those regulation. So when I'm hiring for a quality assurance for Medreich PLC, typically I would expect him to know what regulation we have to comply with on a European Union level. But it's not just that. Regulation changes over the time. So we have to basically kind of update our knowledge. So it's continuous improvement, which is one of the following points anyway. Again, compliance with regulation also implies one of the skills that I've listed in one of the previous slides, which is creativity. Okay. Sometimes regulation are ambiguous. Okay. To give you a small example, on a United Kingdom level, we have a regulation which is more of a guideline. So it will tell you, you can go from point A to C in any way. The important thing is that when you start from A, the final result is actually C. So it gives you certain guidelines, and it's just a recommendation of what you have to do. Okay, there are certain criteria which have to be complied with, but they are mainly guidelines. Now, if you go to the American market, they've got a code of conduct, which is not made of guidelines. It's made of proper directives. So to go from A to C, They will tell you that you have to get through B. Okay, so depending on the regulation that you have, there is a certain amount of creativity that comes into place. Okay. Obviously, creativity means that, yes, you can get kind of around the rules, but always keeping in mind patient safety and product quality. Okay. The third one is documents maintenance and update. As I said, quality assurance is the guardian of the quality system. So if, for example, you have a quality system where certain procedures and certain documents have to be renewed every 3 years, it's going to be the duty of quality assurance to continuously review and update those documents. Another example to do with documentation. Let's say that the manufacturing department needs to change a manufacturing procedure. It's going to be the quality assurance duty to change that procedure as per request from the manufacturing department. It's our duty to actually assess that that change is possible and is legitimate, and it doesn't affect the product quality and the patient safety. And then once that is done, it has to be documented. Okay. Continuous self-improvement. Continuous self-improvement is what I refer to, for example, in terms of regulation. It means being on top of new regulation. As you know, the European Union, which is the market where I operate in, they really like to update their regulation pretty much continuously. So it's our duty to regularly go onto the Udralex website, which is where you basically find all the GMP regulation that we have to comply with, and actually check if there's been any update. Continuous self-improvement means also that if you haven't got all of those 5 skills that I've already listed, it is your moral duty to improve in those areas where your skills are still poor. So, for example, at the moment, I've got people in my QA department who are from a different background. So they are very, very strong in certain skills. So, for example, they have very good engineering skills, but they don't really know much about the regulation. So what we're doing regular training sessions in order to first introduce them to those regulations, and then finally make them subject matter expert. The final one, continuous communication with other departments. Again, going back to the regulation topic, which obviously it's very, very close to our heart because of the industry where we operate. The QA department will always communicate very, very closely to the regulatory department. Regulatory department is the one that is supposed to be always on top of regulation. So continuously, we're going to ask ourselves, are we complying with this regulation? And if we don't know the answer, we will have to double check with the regulatory departments. Now, the regulatory departments is not there just to give us a double check or a feedback. It's also there to educate us. Okay. Personally speaking, I'm not a regulatory person. I'm not one of those people that've got all of those 5 skills. I'm a bit weak on regulation, and therefore I make sure that periodically I always communicate with the regulatory manager in Medreich PLC to literally being educated on what can be done and what cannot be done, how evaluation from the regulator on a certain product are conducted and how they're not. Okay, so communication is a real big result for you to self-improve. And again, is a big result to actually identify and prevent mistakes. Okay, so just to give you a live example, it might be that as a QA, you are approving a certain manufacturing documentation for a product which is under development. Now, if you do not regularly check the status of the project with regulatory, unless you are already a regulatory expert, you wouldn't know if you're doing something basically against the rules. And it might be that, again, you are spending money in research and development, you have already ordered material for launching of a certain product and for manufacture, and then all of a sudden, just because you didn't educate yourself on that particular product and on that particular regulation, everything goes wasted. So to get to the end of the presentation and to actually summarize why we have synergy and agility in the title, and how QA can be really the focus and the crucial part of all of this. Again, two very simple definitions. Now, synergy is the interaction of the mind, body, and soul to create and enhance combined energy. Okay, so the resulting combined effect is greater than the sum of the individuals. I've probably stressed this concept already quite a lot during the presentation, but basically you have to remember QA is at the center of the old system, of the old quality system. Because of how the quality system is designed, you cannot expect other departments to talk to each other in a direct way. They probably do already. However, the most effective way is to pose QA, the quality assurance team, in the center of this communication. We have to be the hub of the synergy and communication within the company. Agility is the ability to change body's position efficiently and requires the integration of isolated movement skills using a combination of balance, coordination, speed, reflexes, strength, and endurance. Okay, so this one is a definition that is very, very much referred to the human body, but it gives you an idea of how a pharma industry or a pharma company has to move. It's not much different from the human body, okay? It's just the environment that is different. The human body moves in a physical environment, where instead the pharma industry moves in a market. A market that, remember, is global, is fast-paced, regulation changes continuously, the patient necessity changes continuously. You've just seen it very, very recently, that all of a sudden everyone has discovered the importance of vaccination, the importance of sanitizing material, the importance of protective equipment. The pharma industry has to be agile just enough to basically accommodate all of those needs, okay? So when I say, for example, coordination again has got a lot to do with synergy, with communication, with a certain communication flow that has to be consistently followed. So again, we go back to what we already said in previous slide, consistency and discipline is one of the keys. Speed, how is speed achieved? So let's say, for example, that you are running and you have to suddenly change direction. Obviously, there's a certain speed involved and you want to do it as quick as possible. So let's say, for example, that you're driving and you want to get out of danger from an accident. Obviously, you have to do it in a very fast way. However, you need coordination to do it. Okay, if you don't know what you're doing, yeah, you might do it quick, but you're probably going to do it wrong. Pharma industry is exactly the same, okay? Strength and endurance. The quality assurance department will need the strength to actually convey the message to other departments. Endurance is also a big element of this discussion, because sometimes certain project requires 3, 6, 9 months. So you have to make sure that not only your quality assurance department, but all of the other departments will have basically the consistency again and the endurance to actually follow that project on a regular basis with effective feedback. And basically it results in being on top of your project. So in the end, all of these elements that we have listed and mentioned in this presentation, discipline, accuracy, interaction, consistency, and creativity, they can drive innovation into the pharma industry and give you that competitive advantage within the market, okay? Because at the end of the day, that's what basically makes the difference between all the pharma company that are actually playing in this market. Because in the ideal world, we're all supposed to follow the same regulation and to aim for patient safety and for product quality. So the ethic is exactly the same for every one of us, and it's in that little space that we have to basically prevail on our competitors, which is basically being more innovative and get that competitive advantage. Just to give you an example, if 3 or 4 companies are trying to bring a certain product which is new to a market, I can guarantee to you that the one that is going to be able to do it 3 months earlier than others, it's the one that is going to prevail on the market. Okay. Ideally, what you want to do it, again, always in respect of patient safety, compliance with regulation, and product quality, is to be fast, accurate, and consistent. Okay. So that was basically the end of the presentation. Thanks a lot for your attention. Obviously, you can look for me on LinkedIn if you have any question in the future, if you want to ask or you want to get connected with me. But now I'll be more than happy to respond to any question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Matteo Rossillo, sir. We are very thankful. It was a nice presentation from you, sir. So there are a few questions. If you are okay, I want to raise questions by some participants, sir.
Yes, I think that do you want me to read them directly from the group chat, or are you going to select them for me?
Oh, I'll be asking them, sir. I am
Okay.
asking them. Okay, I'll be asking. You just need to answer them, sir.
Give me just 1 second. I'll get some water.
Yes, sir, sure. So one question is there. The question is from Mr. Zaki Iqbal. He's asking that what is the role of quality assurance department and quality assurance personnel in concern to marketing of the products, sir? The role of,
Now,
yes.
With the concern to marketing on, remember you have certain things that happen on a daily basis and things that happen more on a non-regular base. So typically on a daily base, we are definitely involved with customer complaints. Most companies don't really have a customer service for workforce which is educated in chemistry or any basically science behind drugs. So very typically, patient with a complaint would be passed to quality assurance. So to give you an example, once we are passed with a quality complaint, we might provide direct answer straight away to the patient, or pass the very same question to the manufacturing department, for example, and actually investigate whatever defect is being passed to us. Again, in terms of post-marketing, and we're going back basically to what we said about being agile and being more competitive. Quality assurance, as I said, has got a feedback and a contribution to give on in terms of transport. Now, transport obviously can be the transport of the product from the manufacturing facility to the warehouse. So we're not yet into the post-marketing area. But once the product has to go from the company to the customer, that is where quality assurance might have an input. Okay, so it could be up to quality assurance to find a solution to actually transport the product faster and more effectively or in better conditions. So quality assurance might say this product, yeah, by regulation can be transported within 30 degrees. However, because we want to provide the best quality, the best product quality possible, we will recommend to transport it into 25 degrees. So these are just some examples. Okay. Now, again, post-marketing, unfortunately, sometimes the input of quality assurance is to recall the product or to suspend the distribution of the product. So that's another input, which is not one of the very positive one that we can give. But if we actually identify that there is a non-conformity with a certain product, and if we have the suspect that that defect might be passed already onto the market, it's our duty to basically recall the product into our warehouse. So these are just some example of the post-marketing activity in relation to the quality assurance team.
Yes, sir. Rightly agreed, sir. Another question is there, sir, from one participant, Ms. Mohini Zadav. She's asking that, what is the current state of artificial intelligence in quality assurance, particularly? What is it? Yes, sir.
Now, artificial intelligence, again, it's first of all, it's very much in connection with what kind of resources from a financial point of view you've got in the pharma industry. And as you probably know, there are certain areas of the pharma industry they can count on very, very big budget. So they can basically get the artificial intelligence they need. Other industry, obviously, they have to work in certain cost restrictions. So I would say that certain area are still pretty much of a dinosaur when it comes to artificial intelligence, and that is where basically quality assurance needs to be creative. So typically speaking, going back to the quality system example, nowadays it's plenty of company that provide software for quality system. I'm not going to make any name, but basically these systems, what they do, they control, for example, that your documentation is in a good status. So, for example, that none of your procedure has expired. They will check that any change within your quality system is being processed in a certain way, and that basically the rest of the company doesn't proceed with a change unless the system allows that. Okay. Now, as I said, that has got a certain cost, and people that have got a long experience in quality assurance sometimes realize that the very same things that are done by certain system can be actually performed by a very simple Excel spreadsheet, which is being designed in a certain way. Okay, so that is where, again, it comes to all the skills that I've already listed. So technical knowledge, you have to be an expert in Excel. Agility and creativity, you have to actually use that instrument to your benefit. Okay, but artificial intelligence in the long run is going to play a huge role anyway. And it's not just about having systems that tells you very simply, oh, that procedure is expired. There's going to be probably software that will be able to, just to give you a very simple example, connect with the European regulation, actually scan the European regulation and find out if there is any update that will require a change within the manufacturing procedure, for example. So what you have to focus on is that artificial intelligence, it's basically going to work as a human intelligence with a difference. Okay, any artificial intelligence, doesn't matter how sophisticated it is, will always follow certain algorithms. Okay, which is basically, for those who don't know what algorithm is, they're going to follow a sequence of instruction. Okay, but they're only going to follow the sequence of instruction they've been given to follow. Okay, and there is no artificial intelligence system that can actually capture so many algorithms like the human brain. So the contribution of artificial intelligence, it's definitely going to become bigger in the industry. But I can promise you already today that quality assurance, it's definitely going to be one of the sector that is going to be least affected. We're going to be affected, but we're always going to be needed because there are certain things that a computer simply cannot do. It's not like on a mechanical level on a production line. On production line, you know that automation is it's gradually playing a bigger part, but that's just because the algorithm, the process flow, the process sequence that the computer or the machine has to follow there is very, very simple. Quality assurance, it's still so complicated that yes, artificial intelligence might help, but the human contribution will always be crucial, at least for, again, a very, very long time.
Yes, sir, agreed. Human contribution is always expected, and it is expected, sir, surely. Sir, another question is there. Mr. Anil is asking that he's asking about that issue of CAPA in case of data integrity during the continuous batch manufacturing. That means suppose a batch is running the continuous batch manufacturing document wherein data integrity issues they occur. Data integrity issues occur. So what should be the CAPA? I'm not sure what he's exactly asking about, but is there any concept of CAPA regarding data integrity, sir?
The acronym, to be absolutely honest, doesn't tell me much. But when it's about what I can tell you is that data integrity, not just on production line, in any of the of the different steps of manufacturing a product at the moment, it's part of a huge debate because we are basically in a transition period for the industry where we are going from paper-based batch manufacturing records into digital records. Okay, so the main question of data integrity is how accurate and how correct those documents are going to be. Okay, so data integrity is also about how genuine those documentation is going to be. Okay, so it's very important at the moment because again, we are in that transition from manufacturing documentation that is literally filled by hand. And remember, even if manufacturing documentation is filled by using a computer, there is not much difference from filling it by hand. It's just like the data are entered from a keyboard and not from a pen. But again, there's a lot of human input in that, which is failable, unfortunately. So data integrity into moving into digital recording, it's basically raising a question like, is the machine or is the software going to be capable of doing what humans would be doing, but doing it better? Okay. And those data, are those data going to be corruptible? Are they going to be easy to review? Are they going to be genuine? Can anyone get into the system and change those data? So again, unfortunately, I don't really know what that acronym means, but that is my view at the moment on data integrity. So I hope that partially answered the question. If it didn't, I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, but yeah. I don't know that acronym. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, sir. Fine. No issue with that, sir. Sir, one question is there. Another question. Some people who are working in Indian pharma industry as QA personnel say the person works there for a few years. Then what experience what he is going to gain there? Is it truly useful in some other conditions like European Union scenario for quality assurance requirements, etc.? Same person, like my dear friend, tomorrow's our speaker, Mr. Satyateja, he is from our area. So many of our students are also working here in India. So if they want to be there in European Union, will the experience will be equally useful, sir?
First of all, any experience in QA, it's going to be useful to work in pretty much any industry. Okay. So that is literally as a principle. Now, for those that have been lucky enough to acquire experience within the manufacturing of drugs in India and in general in Asia, that is a very, very valuable commodity. It's not just because of your technical knowledge. So just to give you an idea, at the moment, India is producing, I think, 10 times the amount of chemists that Italy produces on a daily basis. So from a technical point of view, there's no question that you've got quite a lot of knowledge over there. You're accurate. Your academic experience, it's not under question, but it's also for cultural reason. Like, you are very disciplined. We know that any person that comes from your cultural and technical background, it's going to work very, very effectively when put into a certain system. So to give you a very simple example, anyone coming from your background, when he's directed into a certain direction, is going to smash it. So if you are given a target and you are told exactly how to get to that target, there's no question that you're going to achieve it. So
Yes.
from my point of view, and remember that I've been working now with people from your academic and cultural background for a lot of years, and I'm always being amazed by the accuracy and the precision which is applied on the workplace. So how to translate that into moving eventually into a European Union regulation environment? I don't think that you need much more in terms of competence. Probably the only difference over here is that, again, it's going to be very, very centralized. So you come from anyone who's been working in an Indian company based in India, it's probably mentally agile enough to actually to comply with different regulation. Okay, so they are probably already very used to have to manufacture something from the American product one day, and then for the European product another day, and then for the Arabian market another day. Here, the European market, it's still more focused onto the European Union. So it's the European regulation is very, very central. Okay, so that is basically the difference. So possibly the scope or whatever you're gonna do on this side of the world, if you move here, it's gonna be narrower rather than what you do at the moment. I mean, on a daily basis, I do speak to Indian colleagues, and I can see the problem they've got on their side, that they've got a certain product that they distribute for us, for example, but at the same time, they have to comply with the American regulation, with the Japanese regulation, and therefore they've got a huge challenge on their side. So to be honest with you, I think probably the transition would be harder for anyone going from Europe to India rather than for someone coming from India to Europe. And that is probably the reason why you are so successful in getting into the job market for quality assurance and regulatory and chemistry in general in the European area.
Yes, very good and rightly answered, sir. Lastly, I'll be asking you, sir, what should I convey to my dear students? What else they need so that they become competent and that much able, so that they can be there surrounding to you, sir, somewhere working in the European Union or UK or London? Some of, if any one of them, if he or she reaches to you, I'll be very much glad, because of genuine thinking that I am their teacher, and suppose my student they become succeed in their lives. So what should I convey to my dear students, sir? What else they need in order to maneuver their own personality, in order to be competent to work over there in their in those conditions?
I think part of the answer goes back to my sports experience, that a lot of the effort that you have to make is to be very, very consistent and disciplined. It sounds very, very obvious. It sounds a bit stupid, but it is what it is. You have to be very, very consistent, and that doesn't apply just to quality assurance. It applies for sure to any sector of the pharma industry. You have to make sure that you are basically follow the right procedure. And when I say making sure that you're following the right procedure, it doesn't mean that someone from another department or your manager comes over, gives you a procedure to follow, and you just blindly follow. Okay. You have to really understand what you're doing. Once you understand it and you start doing it, you have to be very, very consistent. Okay. You have to follow religiously what is in that procedure, but that is just one of the examples. You can apply consistency and discipline to what you're studying at the moment. Okay. And this is a suggestion from someone that's been a student not long ago. Like I finished university about 12-13 years ago. So and I know that the best results in my studying here is they all came from those areas, those exams that are basically prepared with consistency. So also one thing that you have to take care of is that unfortunately there will be topics during your university years that you don't like. So just to give you an example, I come from a background where theoretical chemistry was a very, very strong topic. And anything that was to do with engineering topics wasn't really that important, or at least the message from that university was, oh yeah, we're going to talk about machinery, but it's just like one of the topics on a side. And I knew that wasn't really the case. Okay, my sensation in those years has always been, no, I think this is important, and I think that when I'll go for an interview in a company, they will not just expect me to know exactly how a molecule is made, because at the end of the day, I will have to work on machinery. So I did pay more attention to that topic, although it looked like a minor topic, and I did it with discipline and consistency on a daily basis, and I kept myself informed on the development in that particular topic, and that made a huge difference once I got into the job market. So these are the main suggestions that I can give you. But remember, that can be applied to anything, and it's something that for me comes a lot from my sports culture. And again, it goes to the fact that, for example, coming back to sports, you are very much into cricket. And I know for sure that anyone that is in charge for batting in cricket probably repeats that movement about 200 times a day, because that is going to give you the results. So the final suggestion I can give you in terms of what you can study and how you can study it, even if it's not part of your current study course, start going onto the websites that basically convey the regulation for the different markets. Start trying to explore what GMP means, what GDP means, all of these strange acronyms that I completely appreciate. Sometimes in university they're not really explored that much in details, because it's not that they don't look important. It's just that for now in university, obviously teachers, they want to tell you, okay, what the most important things about chemistry, about mathematics, about physics. However, this is only the foundation. Okay. Is a bit like, to give you a final example from sports analogy, you can do as many push-ups as you want, and you're going to become super strong in making push-ups, okay? But at some point, you will have to translate that skills into the real world. And if that is true, for example, rugby, and it means tackling someone, well, doing push-ups is not going to be enough. Yeah, you build the foundation, because you have a strong chest in order to tackle people, but then you have to learn how to tackle people. You have to learn how quick, how fast they can run. You have to learn in what position they need to be tackled. Here is exactly the same. You have to take this huge foundation your teachers are giving you from an academic point of view, and then put it into practice, into the real world. And that is basically the extra mile that you have to run on your own. And you cannot expect your teachers or your tutor to always be there to actually give you that, because one, they haven't got the time. Two, they haven't got the energy. So it's going to be, that is going to make the difference. Those who are going to translate those skills into the real world and therefore will start acquiring knowledge on their own, those are the people that will actually succeed. Too many times when I do interview, I see people coming over, and when it's about technical stuff, like what is the excipient, they can quote an entire chemistry book. And then all of a sudden you ask them, okay, on a European level, what are you expect to find in the license of the product? Which interestingly takes much, much shorter in terms of time to be studied rather than all you have studied already in university. So it's that little details, that extra mile that's going to make the difference for you.
Yes, surely. It was a very, very correct and right answer as per my way of thinking. I'll surely convey all these things to my dear students, and I hope that all the participants, they have got much more useful information from today's session, sir. So, as I am here now, sir, at now, there are no more questions to ask. So, with your kind permission, we shall start to the last part of our meeting, sir, this session. So that is, as the protocol allows me to present the vote of thanks, we should be thankful to you. Our institute should be thankful to you. So that's why I'm taking this opportunity to present this vote of thanks. Uh, Dear, beloved and respected Mr. Matteo Rossillo, sir, from London, UK, we found you here. You presented your presentation, very much interesting and useful information for all the participants who joined this meeting. Uh, I hope that all of the participants, they might have enjoyed the meeting very well. Definitely, we will take some message, some information, and some knowledge from your session, sir. Students will be surely benefited, because on behalf of our students, I raised that query and question that what else things they need in order to become successful people like you are there in European Union working over there. So I think you highlighted many things. Definitely, our students and students from many institutes, they will take this, sir. Very sure that they are going to get some benefit and advantage from your speech and presentation, sir. So it was a very nice interactive meeting. We are very much thankful to you, sir, on behalf of our organization, the organizing committee of this 2 days international e-conference, the day 1, session 2. You presented very well, sir. So we are thankful on behalf of our institute, Dr. Rajendra Gode, College of Pharmacy, Malkapur. I am presenting this deep sense of gratitude to you, sir, dear Matteo Rossillo, sir. We are very much thankful. With your kind permission, uh, we are going to end this session, sir. If needed, we will be very happy to be in touch with you whenever we'll be in need of certain kind of knowledge, some information, some resources from you. As the relationship has built up now, we'll be looking to you, sir, in the future for kind of gentle help, kind collaboration and cooperation, sir. If you are not update to this, I'll be very much thankful to you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope to be able to give you some more presentations in the future. So I'll leave you to the rest of your event now. But again, thanks a lot, and stay safe out there in the current situation with the lockdown, please. Okay.
Hello. Hello. I think we lost connection.
Hello. Rossillo, sir. Oh, no. Are you there still, sir?
I think he loses his connection.
Yes, yes. So, on behalf of our institute and on behalf of the organizing team, we are going to finish this session. I hope all the participants they enjoyed it. We'll be expecting you for the day 2 session on tomorrow at exactly 1:30 p.m. So till that moment, all the participants stay tuned. Come tomorrow, join on tomorrow. Yes. Okay,
Okay, thank you.